Her triumphs. I took a group of women that didn't believe in themselves, and I just believed in them. Her trials.
I never wanted to go to practice. I was losing a ton of weight.
Her story.
I just put my faith in God and just trusted the system.
Her why.
I want people to see what I did and say, oh, that's so awesome. I'm going to be better than that. That would be how I hope that this journey ends.
This is Her Why, where we tell the stories from BYU women's sports. Here is your host, Lauren McLean.
We're so glad you've joined us for Her Why, where we celebrate the women who make BYU sports great. And joining us now is former BYU women's soccer star and current attacker for the Utah Royals, Brecken Mozingo. Brecken, thank you so much for taking the time with me today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Congratulations on everything you've been able to do at BYU and then being a pro. Is that weird for you to even say that? Like, I'm a pro soccer player.
It definitely is. I'm trying to get used to it and not feel not humble about it in a way. Like, obviously I want to take it humbly or whatever, but it's just weird that now that is my title. And it just, seeing myself on the field in a pro atmosphere is just a little bit shell-shocking a little bit. It's just weird. It's different.
I can't even imagine, because I'm sure since you're like a little girl, that's like the top goal for any athlete. You're like, I want to make it to the pros. And now you're there. So what is that feeling like?
It's definitely fulfilling, but it's a lot of work as well. It's everything I expected, but also a lot of things I didn't expect. A lot of things I've already kind of gone through in the college, in my college career, but also some other things that I haven't really experienced or gone through yet. So it's all in all a great experience.
Feel more like a business?
It does. Yeah. Getting paid 2 times a month is pretty cool. Just to play soccer, a sport that I grew up playing and loved and all that. It feels kind of weird that I'm just getting money to do something that I'm having fun with. So it's fun, but it definitely is definitely a worker's environment.
Right. In January, you went to the National Women's Soccer League draft. What were you expecting going into that?
I didn't know. I mean, you don't want to go into it thinking that you're going to be a certain round and a certain pick, because you never know what can happen, especially with what teams select who. All the opportunity is within those teams' hands, and none of it is within yours. Like, you have no control over what happens. So with that being said, I kind of just went into it excited that I got to experience the draft and experience Anaheim and experience it also with teammates. So that was just overall a great experience. And I didn't know what to expect, essentially.
A little bit of nerves?
It was nerve-wracking. I mean, I was definitely nervous when they were saying, like, the first pick, second, and then I was just like, okay, those are all the way. Let's just chill from here on out, and whatever I get's what I get.
Well, you didn't have to wait long because you were the 4th overall pick.
That's true.
And you were chosen by the Utah Royals, which meant after playing for BYU, you'd be sticking around Utah, which is really cool. What was going through your mind when you heard your name?
I was really excited, really happy. I know that my parents were really excited too. They all leading up to the draft, they just told me consistently, why wouldn't Utah pick you? Well, don't you think Utah is going to maybe pick you? We really want you to stay here. I mean, obviously the choices are not choice. I don't have a choice.
Right.
Wherever you get chose or called to, it's kind of where you have to go. It's kind of like a mission.
Yeah.
I talked to them as if it was a mission. I was like, okay, wherever I get called is kind of where I'm meant to be and where I'm meant to play. So whatever happens, happens.
So your parents were excited you stayed in Utah. What about you? Were you excited to stay in Utah?
I was definitely excited. I mean, I like feeling confident on and off the field, and being in Utah, knowing my environment around myself is something that I'm able to kind of lean back on when maybe things aren't going the best on the field. So
we talked a little bit about it at the beginning, but what are some of the biggest differences you've noticed from the pro level, from the collegiate level?
Every level that you go up from, rec to club to high school to college to pro, it's just a little bit faster. It's the same exact soccer, same exact way that you touch the ball, same exact way you pass the ball. It's just done faster. So it really isn't too much of a difference. I mean, the level of competition obviously increases, and how switched on you have to be mentally, physically, and in tune with your body and all that is definitely more like it's more expected of you at this level. But I would say the biggest overall thing is just how fast it is.
What was that moment like when you first stepped onto American First Field for the very first time?
Oh my goodness. Well, I refer to it as Rio Tinto. I know it's America First, but I just grew up with it all my life as Rio Tinto. And I just remember even seeing the Royals when I was younger, and Real Salt Lake, all of them play on Rio Tinto. And so when I stepped on America First for the first time, it felt so wild, and the crowd cheering and all that stuff. I mean, I've had my family tell me that the crowd went crazy. I didn't hear it in the moment because I was just like, oh my gosh, I get to go play, and it's my turn, or I got called up to, play the last 10, 20 minutes, whatever it was, and I was just ecstatic that I had the opportunity to just help my team in that game.
How cool that you have like built-in fans, right? Like you're not like in Orlando or somewhere.
I know.
You're here where everybody knows you. Is that kind of surreal?
It definitely is surreal. I actually have thought about this multiple times. I just think, if I got picked somewhere else, I would not necessarily be a nobody, but no one would know me, and I just have like the ward in that area to kind of lean on. And even then they wouldn't know me like everyone here in Utah has known me, and some of the fans have known me, or just people like neighbors, all that stuff have known me since I was, a baby. So it's just kind of cool that I have that kind of group and community to lean on throughout this like journey of mine.
You're not the only BYU alum playing for the Royals. You're joined by Michaela, I almost said Coulihan. It's Clough now, right? Michaela Clough, Cameron Tucker, Michelle Vasconcelos, who went to your same high school, I think, right?
Yep.
Whoa. See, that's kind of crazy, too.
Yep.
Do you feel a special connection to those players because of your BYU ties?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, the pro level isn't easy to go through, and so having those girls around you kind of creates that internet family within the team already. Like, obviously, the team is your family, but the family within the family are those BYU girls.
So cool. And have you kind of clung to them, this being your very first season in the pros? Kind of like, help me, tell me what I'm doing.
Definitely. I've definitely asked them, hey, is this normal?
Yeah.
What is this? Me being a rookie, I'm thinking everything's how it's supposed to be. And sometimes I'm like, oh, it's different in these other clubs, or it's similar in these clubs. And so they just kind of help me with like my mental and just physical, the whole shebang. Like they have me covered.
So awesome. Going back a little bit, how did you first get involved in soccer? Is your family super into sports?
My dad was just a northern boy, like I would say a redneck in a way. Back then I feel like you didn't specialize like in a sport that young, and so you always just played seasonal sports, and he did football, wrestling, and baseball, but he never played soccer. My mom maybe played a little bit of softball in high school, but not a huge, addicted family to sports. But I just kind of grew up liking soccer, and I didn't really try any other sport. I think I did gymnastics for a day, and I was off, in who knows land, and the whole other group was learning how to, tumble. Anyways, my mom was just like, all right, soccer it is. Here we go. But yeah, just started off with rec and just escalated from there.
Do you remember the point where you're like, I love this? Or did you always kind of love it?
I feel like everyone kind of loves something that they're, naturally kind of good at, or they're like, oh my gosh, wait, this is kind of a strength of mine,
Yeah.
And I think in rec, just realizing, I think also in school, I was one of the faster girls. I would, race the boys and all that stuff. So I loved running. And at that time, now, no. But like at that time, I loved running and just being able to compete with the boys, run faster than boys. It was just like soccer kind of just naturally bled into that with running, and it was just kind of fun, and it just naturally kind of came to me like, okay, I need to get the ball and run and go kick it in the goal type thing.
You're from Sandy, so you've been playing in Utah pretty much your whole life. Did you ever want to get away, whether it be for college or club or anything, or did you always want to stick close to home?
I ventured out a little bit my freshman year of college to UCLA.
Yeah.
And when that whole thing was kind of happening, I already committed here to BYU when I was like 14 or something, freshman year of high school. And the next year, opportunity popped up because it was just a verbal commit. You don't sign until your senior year. Opportunity arose with UCLA, and I just kind of decided to go with it and see possibly where it took me. I mean, it was just kind of random the way that it came up. So I was just like, okay, things don't just happen for no reason. Things happen for a reason. So I took it and just decided to run with it and see where it took me. And it ended up leading me back to here. So I went there, played my freshman year, and then loved the environment, loved the girls, loved UCLA in general. UCLA is an amazing school. But things were just not clicking or adding up in the way that I was kind of hoping or wanting them to. And little breadcrumbs were being left for me to kind of realize, like, okay, I need to be back home. I need to be in my element. I need to be, especially for soccer, on the field. That was something that really needed to happen. Because as athletes, like, it's hard not to place, like, your value and your self-worth on the sport and what you're accomplishing and your success and all that. So it was just kind of like, okay, I need to change things up right now. And that December over Christmas, I made the transfer, or went into the transfer portal, checked out some schools like in Utah, but Jen kind of reiterated to me when I did decide to verbally decommit. She just reiterated, hey, the spot's always been here, and you're able to take it back if you want it. And so I was just like, okay, you're the best for that. Thank you. I'm super stoked. I'm going to give you all that I have for this program and like my teammates in general for the next 3 or 4 years. So,
well, we're going to talk to you a little bit about kind of how that transition was in a little bit. I want to stick with your family. You have 3 younger brothers.
I do.
Is that right?
Yep.
I saw on Instagram that you guys have a tradition of getting together on Sundays to do some sort of activity. What are some of the things that you guys do together?
I'm trying to think of all the adventures that we've had. We're since we're all in sports, all 3 of them are in baseball.
Okay.
Me being in soccer, we love to involve some sort of competition, whether it be board games or just recently we played pickleball, and I unfortunately realized how good they were. And I realized that they've grown up. Like, as I've been growing up, they've been growing up too. So they're bigger, faster, stronger. And I'm sitting here like, dang, it's not even fun anymore. Maybe I shouldn't suggest pickleball again. I don't know. But yeah, or walks. Like, we'll go on walks. We'll watch movies. Sometimes we'll make food. We've gone to the temple before, sat in the lawn, just read scriptures or written our testimonies. We've just done random stuff, whatever comes to our head, we'll just do.
So this is like without your parents. This is just you and your brothers.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that is so cool. You've been so involved in soccer your whole life, and that takes up so much time, right? How have you found that balance between family and the sport that you love?
It's definitely hard. I mean, you have to make sacrifices no matter what is going to be on your plate. I mean, even if soccer wasn't to be on my plate one day, it's like, okay, my career, family, relationships in general, all these things you have to juggle no matter what title you have, a mother, sister, father, son, whatever it is, you have to juggle things and you'll have to make sacrifices and stuff. I've definitely had to sacrifice family time or, people, something that I kind of didn't grow up with was just, the importance or I guess emphasis on birthdays or holidays or anything like that, because if your sport was happening, that was pushed out the window type thing. It was like, okay, you perform here and then you can take on what day it was after type thing. But just juggling it in general, I try to just always have, like, Sundays is just for family and my faith, and the rest of the week, unfortunately, like, it is for my sport or my career at this point. And then thankfully it's only about 6 hours of your day, and then after that you can create your relationships with other people, and the relationship with yourself, relationship with God, all that stuff can come after those 6 hours, Monday through Saturday.
I love that. And how nice that you have that one day, right, that you can rely on.
Yep.
You played for Alta High School, set a record of 38 goals scored in a single season, breaking the record that was previously held by your current teammate, Michelle Vasconcelos, who scored 37, one less goal. That is just crazy. Does she know that?
I don't know. I don't think I brought it up to her.
You're like, I'm not even going to breach that subject.
She was my roommate, actually, this past weekend. Oh, my gosh. So maybe I should bring it up.
Yeah, next time you like, Michelle, there's something I've always wanted to tell you. What was that? So when did you start thinking, like, this is something I want to do in my future? Like, I'm good enough that I can play in college.
I don't know.
I mean, you had people recruiting at 14, so obviously it was young, but
I feel like and I don't mean for this to sound not humble in any way, but it's just, I've worked really hard throughout all my life, and I have made those sacrifices, and, like, my parents have kind of built that in me to learn at a young age. Like, if you want something, whatever goal you have, hard work is required, regardless of what it is, and sacrifices have to be made. And with that being said, I kind of, like, I just always have, like, thought of it as, like, an evolution almost. Like, I'm here now, but, like, when I'm 15 or I'm 14 now, I'm, a freshman in high school. I'm going to turn 15 next year, and next year is when I'm going to be battling, like, these simple things, or, like, these tournaments, or maybe this opportunity will arise within the sport or whatever. But I feel like it's just always kind of been within me. Obviously, like, I've had mental droughts where I'm like, oh my gosh, can I actually do this? Do I want to? Am I happy? Like, am I having fun right now? Or am I just doing this to, accomplish this goal? And I feel like it's just always kind of been there. It's always been a part of the big plan of just, like, checking off the boxes. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't ever really one moment where I was just like, you know what, I think I'm going to play pro. Or even with college, it was like, it was just always just, the hard work wasn't just going towards the game on Saturday. The hard work was also being implemented and invested in for that college career and for that professional career after. I feel like it's just always been, like, it all adds up at the end of the day, and it all added up to now being pro.
Incredible.
And so, I don't know.
Small goals.
Yes.
But you knew what it all led to.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's incredible. And you actually didn't play soccer your junior and senior seasons, right? With the women. You practiced with the boys team training for college.
Yes.
How did that all come about?
I was just kind of trying to decide. Again, sacrifices. Like, high school was so fun. For soccer to have that kind of energy about it, that fun energy, high school was where it was at. I tell people all the time, like, you really got to put this decision of, like, wanting to possibly get better or wanting to have fun and really establish those relationships, like, on a pedestal, and really decide what you want to do. Because you're only in high school once, you're only in college once, and all these things. But I just decided, and I wouldn't say I regret it now, but I definitely miss the fun aspect, or the fun side of soccer in high school was that, for sure.
Yeah.
But playing with the boys was also fun. I created relationships with them too. Not any boyfriend relationships, but it was just fun because I always wanted older brothers, and it just kind of felt like I had that kind of family with the boys. So,
and you feel like that elevated your game by practicing with them for a few years?
Yeah, it was hard because it was just faster.
Right.
Yeah.
Incredible. Coming up, Brecken talks about faith, mental health, and her stellar senior season at BYU. This is Her Why. Welcome back to Her Why. I'm Lauren McLean, chatting with former BYU women's soccer star and current attacker for the Utah Royals, Brecken Mozingo. Brecken, in 2021, you opened up on social media about your struggle with depression, mentioned how much of your self-esteem was tied up in soccer, which you've kind of mentioned that. When did you realize that something mentally wasn't right?
Definitely at UCLA, I think. I just remember going to the dorm every day. Obviously, it was hard to compete against national team girls. I wasn't someone who was naturally involved with going to U.S. camps all growing up. I went to like 2. And so that kind of already got to me. I think the 2 things I mainly struggled with was just confidence and self-belief just in myself and the player I was, even though I had so much work that I put into the game to rely on and to look on of, okay, that's who I am. This is what I do. I am prepared for this. I'm ready for this. I just had those mental blocks, those Goliaths in my sight that were just so big that I just felt like I couldn't overcome. And so I think that was also partially a reason as to why I came home and decided that was what was best for me. I also knew that I had coaches, like making the decision to come to BYU when I was in the transfer portal. It was like, okay, I have coaches that have watched me all throughout my life. I don't need to be some U.S. national team player to feel like I have value on that team. And so I also kind of, in a way, I didn't go about it correctly. I think I had a little bit of pride, or I wasn't humble enough going into it, because I think I had a little bit of arrogance thinking, okay, since they've been watching me and since they know who I am and since they know all this about me, this might be easier to get playing time or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't. I would show up to practice and I wasn't there yet. Like, I was not affecting the game the way that I was needing to. And it took a little bit. And again, like going back to the mental health stuff, like that was really hard because I was at one place dealing with just confidence and self-belief, and then coming here, I was dealing with both those and like a pride issue, and just dealing with all those things together, and also embarrassment, like feeling that I have the community that I've grown up with now seeing me sit the bench at my home, like college, or a college that's in my backyard. So I just had to sit there and really just go through every emotion, highs and lows, and just really figure out what I wanted and who I wanted to be. And I think it didn't click until the summer before my junior season, which was in 2022, I believe. That's when I started really having fun, like created amazing relationships with people, was so much more outgoing. And I'm not saying you have to be outgoing to be happy,
right,
but it was just the kind of change or flicker of light that I needed. And then things started to change on the field for me my junior year. And I started to realize, like, I'm Brecken Mozingo, again, not in a prideful way, but just recognizing like who I truly am. Like, everyone has to realize at some point they're a daughter of God, and I had to realize, like, in this moment as a soccer player, that I am Brecken Mozingo.
Yeah.
And with that being said, after that, it just changed, and my mental health was just better, because I think the biggest thing, or the biggest difference for me, was focusing on the present and focusing on the now. Wasn't focusing on the past, wasn't focusing on the future, was just content with where I was at in each day and being completely present in the moment. Like right now, I'm on a podcast and that's where my mind is, and that really helped.
What's interesting about that is that's those thoughts probably aren't something that just suddenly go away and they never come back, right? Because now you move from the collegiate level to the pro level, so you might feel a little bit similar as when you just jumped into college.
Yeah.
So how are you kind of dealing with those emotions again? I mean, I'm not assuming that you have them, but I'm sure some of them probably creep in, right? So how do you deal with them now?
Well, I'm actually really grateful for the whole college thing that happened with me, or my college career, because it has set me up for this moment. And right now, it's just remembering again, like, I'm Brecken Mozingo. I am a tool in the toolbox that's going to be utilized and used when appropriate. And even if that's me being a sub, or if that's me being a starter, or if that's me not even dressing, that's what needs to happen. And I'm just grateful also for the journey that I had, because I know that success can like happen at any moment, especially in this league. It is so prominent for anyone to become anyone at any moment in time. It's just that little opportunity, that little mistake made by someone on the opponent, like on the opposite team. And then it's your moment to shine, and you're ready for that moment. And I think for me, it's realizing that, especially right now. And a little bit of, I wouldn't even say there was necessarily any pride this second time around, or not being humble enough with the situation that I was potentially going to be in. But I think there was a little bit of embarrassment of, like, before the first game, it was just like, oh, dang, like, no Utah players on there. A interviewer brought up to me, do you feel a lot of pressure being within the top 5 of the first round, like being one of the top 5 picks? And I answered, yeah. I mean, I don't know who wouldn't. So these things happen, and as athletes, it happens all the time. You're going to have your critics. You're going to have things that you achieve, you don't achieve. And with all that being said, the thing that I rely on at the end of the day is just obviously God, relying on knowing who you are and believing in yourself, and also just realizing, like, to continue to put in that work, continue to show up, be consistent, because all those things combined is just going to get you to where you want to go or be at the end of the day.
I love that. That's something that anyone can apply, and you're probably going to be reapplying that your entire life in different situations. Yeah. You mentioned 2022 was kind of when the light bulb went off for you here at BYU, but you also were dealing with some physical challenges. You had surgery on your foot. You had a stress fracture in your ankle. How did you recover from that once you kind of overcome one hurdle and then the physical one happens? How did you kind of overcome all of that?
I don't know. Injuries, I grew up having them, not reoccurringly or not often, but they would pop up. And injuries, there's just nothing you can do. I feel like they only happen at times that they actually really need to happen, and maybe that's for something that's not even like totally unrelated to soccer. So when they came, it's more of, okay, there's probably something else in my life that probably needs some checking up on, or I need to probably step out of the picture, see what I need to do to probably maybe even put the focus on other people around me, whatever it was. The injuries happened also, thankfully, in semi-decent times. Like, most of them happened in the spring. So I was like, okay, if it happened during season, it might be a different story. Yeah. But since it happened in that time frame, and me knowing that I still had June and July most of the time, I don't think I played one full spring season here at BYU because of an injury I had every year. But I knew that I had those 2 months to really grind, and I was actually cleared for in June and July to get ready for the season. I would sometimes feel at like a disadvantage, and I'd be frustrated because of my physical aspect of, dang, you lose your endurance in like 2 weeks. Right. And it's really hard to get it back, and it's mentally draining in that way. But I knew it would happen. It's just one of those things, like, it's once you get once you start lifting after a long time not lifting, those first few days are going to suck. They're going to be so hard on your body, and you're going to, like, every time you bend down, sit in a chair, anything, it's going to be so hard. But then you just, like, after testing of going going day after day, that wears off after, like, 2 to 3 weeks. So just realizing, like, you got to make it, like, you got to be able to climb, so then you can just slide back down or slide down whatever obstacle it was, or the easy part of the journey is done once you climb. So, or the hard part is done once you climb. Right. But yeah, the injuries I think they just happened in a moment that they needed to probably happen, and I just decided to take a step back and look at it from a bigger picture.
And honestly, pretty lucky or blessed, however you look at it, that it wasn't during the regular season, like you mentioned. Oh, yeah. You used to write little phrases and things on your legs. What kind of things would you write when you did that?
So we had a mental strength coach here Initially, it was Craig Manning. He now works with various people. He's actually now back at BYU, thankfully. He's an amazing guy. And he wrote The Fearless Mind. And I tell people that book all the time. I'm like, oh, Craig Manning, Fearless Mind. He's amazing. I, like, regardless if you're an athlete or not, like, I highly suggest it. But the woman that would more consistently work with us, especially individually, was Maddie Sidaway Gates. She was with our team and obviously some other teams as well. But she and Craig implemented in us these little tasks or these cues that we'd have, and they were just 2 to 3 word instructions that we would give ourselves to break down a kind of very big event or topic. So a game in general, or a game, for example, would be that big topic. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that game, and especially with soccer, it's free-flowing. You can't plan for anything. So how can you break that down and simplify it and be able to control your mind with all of the stuff that's going on around you and in the outside environment, not within your mind, is by creating these cues. Creating these cues helped you stay present and focused on the now, which again was that thing I kind of referred to earlier on about just me being in a mental pit and realizing, okay, I just have to be present and not let anxiety creep in or guilt creep in, whatever it was. But I would write these cues on my leg, and I also, for the past, I think it was my sophomore, junior, and senior year, I'd write all in. I'm surprised there's not like an indentation on my leg now from how often I wrote
on there
it.
just
Seriously,
from you writing it.
Just from good old Sharpie. I wanted to write all in just because, again, it helped me just remember, stay present. Whatever play it was, like if there was a goal kick and we were doing our press, our famous Jen Rockwood press, it's like, okay, you're going to focus on what you need to do. You need to hold this position. And then once this trigger happens, that's when you go. So it's just simple instructions. Like some of mine were engage defender, get in box, 2-touch, connect pass, the simplest of things, you know?
Yeah.
That helped just keep my mind in order. Even if I made a mistake, it was like, okay, chill. It's still the same game. There's nothing really different about it. But yeah, those were some of the things I wrote. And then my senior year, I was playing like specifically for 2 people, and one of them was James Darmillo. He was my trainer for multiple years, and he passed, I think it was in end of 2022. And then I was also playing for Megan Smart, or Megan Dickerson, as that was her previous maiden name. She has cancer and is just being such a trooper with that. And so I would write their names on my leg for, okay, this is also who you're playing for, who you're representing while you're out here on the fields. And then on my arm, I'd sometimes write, I love anime. And I love, like, especially just like Maleficent, like her getting her wings stolen. That's like the actual Disney movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh, yeah. And then just her creating her like mantra and like just staying so strong and then like fighting to get them back. Stuff like that. And in anime, there's always these tragic stories. Like the child will grow up with like no parents, or, you know, show up randomly in like some random country, and then all of a sudden they like become this amazing person, this amazing just kind of like hero to those around them. And they achieve all their goals through so much strife and like hardship and all this stuff. And so sometimes I'll write little phrases of like from those anime shows of just like, okay, you know, I can't remember.
Are they in Japanese?
Yes.
You write it in Japanese?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I do, but it's kind of fun because I like feel kind of cool. I'm like, oh yeah, this is Japanese.
You're
But
like, you don't know what it means.
Yeah.
I do.
But it's just, it's fun. It's really fun to
I love
do
that.
it.
Well, these things were working for you because your senior season at BYU, you started in all 26 games, scored 14 goals, 3 of those being game-winning goals. You had 15 assists, 5 for 5 in penalty kicks. That's incredible. What made it possible for you to be at the top of your game your senior year?
I didn't feel like I was at the top of my game. I'm going to be honest. Senior year was kind of up and down for me. I wasn't in necessarily like a mental pit, but I had really big goals that would kind of keep me up at night, and I would just get so stressed out about losing time or not doing enough in the game or feeling unsatisfied or feeling as though under-accomplished from the game. And that would give me just, it would literally keep me up at night. And I'd have to text my mental strength coach like, hey, I have a lot of anxiety right now. I feel like, and I would list all these things that I was feeling. And she would just, again, bring me back to the present and be like, okay, this is where you're at. And then in the Big 12 tournament, Brent Anderson, one of our assistant coaches, I kind of revealed that I was struggling with kind of this aspect of my career. And he sent me this YouTube video, and it was of videographers, and the overall theme of it was turn up, create, publish. And these videographers have been creating this movie for years, and at some point they just had to say, okay, it's time to publish it, you know? Writers, people who produce movies, they can sit there and critique their whole life, and then they'll end up publishing what they were supposed to. And my coach just brought it up and reminded me, like, okay, this game happened. You did what you did. We can only move on from here. Like, we can only go up or analyze the high moments and the low moments of the game. But regardless, time is inevitable, and it's going to be coming and passing you. So if you're going to be stuck on the past and, like, stuck on this game or stuck on whatever it is, you're not going to be able to fully produce or perform how you want to in each game. So just take each day, take each practice and game as a gift, and really just hone in on it, invest yourself, be all in, like it was written on my leg, and be all in for the team. And something that kind of really flipped the switch, and I did this from the beginning of season, but it happened more so, and like I was more passionate about it, especially in the NCAA tournament, because it is your senior year. Like, you don't want soccer to end. I just would consistently tell myself 3 points. Like, I don't care if it's 3 goals I score or if it's 3 assists. I want to be a complete team player. Whatever my team needs in that game, I want to do my best to fulfill that. So that was not only like helping my team and like my teammates in the way that, or just being the piece, like Brecken Mozingo, in the position that, or the role that I was in, of just trying to fulfill that, but it was also like helping me fulfill what I was wanting to fulfill my senior year as well. So it was like a goal each game that not only helped the team, but also helped me at like each time. And it helped me kind of just slow things down, especially if I didn't put like, oh, strictly they have to be goals. I didn't care how it came to be. I didn't care if even it was a double assist. I didn't care. And one of my cues was get in the box. Whatever I did, especially in the attacking third, it was like, okay, how can I beat this girl? Or how can I serve this, to Allie Walbrook in the box, or, to Allie Fry, or whoever it was. It was just like, okay, how can we win this game? How can we do this? What needs to happen? And I think with that kind of mentality and just realizing like this is for the team, the more games you get, the more chances you get, not only as a team, but also for yourself to produce these points towards the goals that you have for yourself. It all is like building blocks on top of each other. And so inevitably, if you're just playing for the team, I think you're going to accomplish more than what you would if you just go out there thinking like, okay, this is what I want to accomplish for myself.
Right.
But if the we is there and not the I feel like the doors just open. At least they did for me. And so it was an awesome experience to kind of go through those ebbs and flows of my senior season.
I love that. It's an amazing thing what happens when we look beyond ourselves, even in athletics, right?
Yeah.
Where it could be just all about you, because it kind of has been your whole life. And then once you kind of see outside of yourself, your perspective changes a lot.
Yeah.
Well, you earned all Big 12 first team honors, named Big 12 All-Tournament Team, as well as the NCAA College Cup All-Tournament Team. Did you feel a little bit validated, though, after receiving those awards? Just a little bit for all of your hard work.
A little bit.
You were also a finalist for the Missouri Athletic Club Herman Trophy for the top female soccer player, becoming only the third BYU player ever to receive that recognition. That's pretty incredible. They flew you to Missouri, I believe, for that.
They did, yeah.
What was that like, being able to experience that moment?
It was amazing. I mean, realizing that I was in the room with a couple of the other top college athletes in the world, in the country, and some of the best male athletes or soccer players in the country as well. It was, again, surreal. First off, me personally, I thought that award came from left field. I had no idea that was even in any type of park for me, to be honest. But I was just like, oh my goodness, this happened? Wow. What? Okay, I'm down to go to Missouri. Let's go. But yeah, it was a good experience. Even though not winning, who cares about winning or whatever it was, I was glad for, I know I'm going to butcher her name, but Onyi, she was an amazing player. She's playing somewhere in Europe right now, and she was super kind. And then Eleanor, she was also an amazing woman. So it was just really cool to witness and experience these other players that were just people just like me. So it was just really cool.
Soccer's a grind, mentally, physically, emotionally, and you're at the pro level, so everything's elevated. At this point in your life, what keeps you going back to soccer every day? At
college, it's kind of, or at times in your life, it's just easy to go through the motions and kind of get through. But with this level, if you do that, you'll get waived, or someone will come take your spot, or, this, that, and the third can happen. And so with that being said, it's literally crucial that you wake up and you realize, okay, this is what I'm fighting for. This is what I'm grinding for, whether it's a paycheck that you're fighting for, or you're fighting for, minutes, or you're fighting for yourself, the goals that you have, whatever it is. For me personally, I feel like I'm just still fighting for, little Brecken Mozingo, the little girl who kind of would cry going to practices with her dad, go through the cones for the millionth time and not beat her time on the stopwatch, all those things. It's just I'm doing it for her. And especially I'm doing it for her when she didn't believe in herself. When she was fighting those demons, and those demons were coming at her saying, hey, you can't do this. This girl's a national team player. You can't beat her. She's an outside back. She's faster than you. All of these things come into your head, and I'm fighting for her in those moments where she felt weak, and in those moments that she didn't believe in herself and maybe no one else did. And so that is really what I'm kind of coming after. I'm coming to prove her that she can do it, and she will.
I'm here with former BYU women's soccer star and current attacker for the Utah Royals, Brecken Mozingo. Brecken, you're incredible. I can't wait to see what you do in your career and in life, whatever you choose to do. And thank you so much again for taking the time with me today.
Well, thank you.
Thanks again to Annie Robinson and Sydney Simpson for producing this episode. Cleon Wall is a senior producer. Her Why is a production of BYU Radio.